Well, I think we can all agree it's a funny old year, 2020 thus far. Here we are, just approaching the last few days of March. British summertime has just begun, and I'm sure in normal times we'll all be thinking about the things that we'd like to be doing. As most of you know, one of the things I've always enjoyed doing over the last 30 years or so is boating on Britain's canals and rivers. And sitting here thinking, well, what can we do to entertain ourselves? I've been digging around in my video archives and found a video that I made in 1993, which seems an awful long time ago now. At the time, I was running a passenger boat business with my business partner in Sawbridgeworth in Hertfordshire, and the great deal I'd struck with Patrice, my business partner, was that for 1 month of the year I would take some time out long enough to go and do some what I used to call serious boating. 1993, I chose to go down to Bath on the Canal, mainly because at that time the Canal had really just only really reopened. There have been volunteers working on it for many years, but the whole length, including the Devizes flight, was open, so it seemed like an adventure worth exploring. And what I thought I would do is to, rather than caption up the video and tell you where various points were along the way, I'd sit and watch it with you, and you can listen to my commentary about what you're seeing and the things along the way. So here we go, we'll get things started. This all started back on the River Storters, where the boat was moored. If you don't know that, it's basically runs the border between Essex and Hertfordshire, from Bishop Stortford down to near Hertford on the River Lee, and then the River Lee takes over as navigation going right down into London's East End, into Limehouse. So this is the first part of the journey. It was, say, in late April 1993, and the boats, the first pictures you'll see in a moment, is of the boat in dry dock up at Hallingbury Mill in Essex, and the boat has just been painted and made ready for the epic journey all the way down to London. So here we go. This is the story about narrowboat Jupiter, his journey from Hallingbury Mill all the way down to London's East End Limehouse Basin. That's the first part of the journey. Look out, because there will be some more coming. Anyway, there's Jupiter, just all nicely blacked and ready to be taken out onto the cut and away down south for this, the start of this journey. So a few miles away downstream from Hallingbury Mill, where the boat was docked, was the base of passenger boats that Patrice and I used to run. She was called Adventurous, and take parties out, cream teas, bowmans and all that sort of thing, discotheque parties. So here we are passing base, heading away downstream in the town of Sawbridgeworth. Quite an unusual sight on the River Stort. Quite by chance, a pair of former working boats, is the ones that used to fly up and down the narrow canal systems, or under wide canals, come to that, carrying goods over 150 years. So quite extraordinary thing to see them here in Sawbridgeworth. This was a very local, familiar territory for me at the time. We used to take passenger trips, obviously a couple of miles either side of our base, heading down towards Harlow, and this lovely landscape park on the right hand side is called the Fishery Park. Well, you can see all the flowers just coming out in the spring meadows. I hadn't bothered to count all the locks along the way. I'm sure in the day I could have told you precisely how many were, but this was one of the ones on the way down to Harlow. It's being filled here. It's called Fig's Lock. And on our way down a couple of miles downstream now, just approaching Harlow Mill. Approaching another lock, and I can guarantee you what was on my mind this time. I was working the boat by myself, and just seeing a narrow boat ahead of you just going into a lock makes your heart sink, because we all like the locks to be set for us. What you have to do is to reset it all after the boat ahead of you has gone through. So I expect I was growling just a little at this time. Unlike me, I know. Onward, skirting around the outside of Harlow. Very typical sort of very pretty navigation. Actually, not particularly well known. It's a bit on the extremes of the canal system. You'll get yourself through London to get there for most parts of the canal system. So not a hugely used navigation. But like most canals, even in a big town like Harlow in Essex, it's some very important green space. Very many pairs of swans seen on duty, just at the time of year where they're all getting a little bit aggressive and territorial. No doubt there's fights going on. This is just very close to Harlow train station. It's a big pub and restaurant in these days, but at the time it was a leisure centre alongside the river. You just might be able to faintly hear in the background overheads one of the planes either taking off or going into Stansted Airport, which isn't very far from here. Burnt Mill Lock already and waiting to go, and at the time that was the competition locally in passenger boat terms, Wind in the Willows. I always think it's quite amusing when you're on a canal boat doing 4 miles an hour to be alongside a very fast road, this one, the A414, going from Harlow towards Hertford. So there you are, chugging along at your very pedestrian pace, with all these cars in the mad world whizzing by at 70 miles an hour. Thankfully, as you can see from the water, a really flat, calm day. If you're a boater, you really don't like the wind, and it blows you any which way. So, pleasant, misty early spring day here. not particularly obvious, but a little bit of habitation here is next to one of the very many former water mills on the River Stort. This is approaching Hunsdon Mill. And hooray, another lock set. Less work to do. Thumbs up. Just passing another boat. Few and far between in those days on the River Stort. Just over to the right, you're getting a glimpse of the lovely water meadows at Hunsdon Mead. Now a little further down the navigation at the Essex town of Roydon. The train line, of course, follows the navigation main line going up to Cambridge from other Liverpool streets, approaching Roydon Bridge here, and a narrow boat that kind of sums up what life's all about. Well, apart from Jupiter, of course, named for being the bringer of joy, this other boat, when you do see its name, you'll see it's called Festina Lente. The Latin's not up to scratch. I can tell you that means make haste slowly, exactly what you do on the canals. Well, you can tell what time of year it is just by the colour of the fields. All seed rape prevalent in these parts, just approaching the last but one lock on the River Stort now. Having passed through its final part of the journey down to join the River Lee. So the junction of two waterways, the big weir to the left, called Fields Weir. You turn right here, this will take you on the River Lee navigation up to Ware and Hertford. That's not our direction of travel. We're turning left to go down south towards London. As we travel south here, skirting around Broxbourne, start to join the vast acreage of what is the Lee Valley Country Park, runs all the way to Broxbourne, right the way down to London's East End. A fantastic place for leisure and wildlife. One key feature that you do see all the way down the River Lee, and it's on every photograph that you'll ever see of the navigation, the big power lines that run all the way from London up to Hertford. We've been joined by friends here who are coming on the journey all the way down to Bath on their boat Music Maker. Here, one of the few very old-fashioned locks left on the River Lee. Well, there aren't any balance beams to actually operate them. You actually have to use a bit of rope to pull like mad to open the bottom gate. Heading south now, starting to get into the outskirts of the metropolis. Still a little bit of commercial traffic running on the River Lee at the time, scrap metal on barges, but this is very typical of the scene of the River Lee. Heavily piled hedges, power lines and industry, which of course was put on the edge of the river because it was the main artery originally to take goods to and from. Well, the other big feature on the left-hand side, the reservoirs. All of London's North London's reservoirs alongside the River Lee. Lovely Art Deco bridge. Doesn't quite look this way these days, but at the time it was the one that carried the North Circular Road over the River Lee navigation. It's surprisingly frequent the number of herons you see in this part of the world. Skyscrapers of Hackney in the distance. Here we are deep into East London now, past Hackney, and running our way down alongside the A11, going down to the Blackwall Tunnel, but still the herons around. Very interesting building, Bow tidal locks. It's a bit changed again in the 21st century, and at the time all this area hadn't been redeveloped, but was on the cards. Of course, what happened around the Olympics in 2012 and all run up, this area was totally unrecognisable now. For the better, I might say. Here, this is the end of the River Lee navigation. Just ahead of us, a set of locks out on the tidal section of the River Lee. course, the locks being in bow, they could be called only one thing. Yes, you're right, bow locks. Section of canal that we're just about to travel on was described at the time, I think, as Britain's newest bit of canal. I think that's quite true right now, but this is called the Limehouse Cut. You can just see in the distance London's Docklands has just started to be built, CM Tower there, but missing all the other tall buildings that were around it at the time. Just for the technically minded, of course, 1993, mobile phone, what was that? Well, I think we did actually have one for the business, but it was one of those things that was the size of a brick and weighed half a tonne, and certainly didn't have a camera in it. So this was filmed on good old-fashioned VHS portable camera. What's one of those, you say? So, nearly to the end of this little part of the journey, just coming into Limehouse Basin. This originally, of course, was a great cargo transshipment basin where freights from all around the world used to arrive in the docks here to either be unloaded directly into warehouses or indeed straight on to carrying narrowboats, which would take the goods all over the country. If you weren't there today, you would not recognise any of these scenes, because at this point we're between the industrial age and the time when all the housing and flats have been built around the basin. So here we are with Music Maker. We've just pulled in for a stop. We've timed ourselves to go out on the next tide as we're going out to the lock ahead of us, and when we get the green light, we should be out onto the River Thames. All that for another day. Hope you've enjoyed the little trip down the rivers Stort and Lee, and I look forward to guiding you all the way down to Bath on subsequent trips.